Well, I'm back from Los Angeles. I had a great time there and in the rest of California, but I got a lot of messages from you guys, and they were mixed really. I wasn't quite able to figure out exactly what type of video I was supposed to make. Tactics! Make another tactics video, please! For the love of all that's good and holy, make another tactics video! Okay. Let's do another tactics video. You guys all hate strikers, right? I got good news for you. You got a really, 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 really good tactic that doesn't even use one, and you still win. A lot. Before we go any further, I would like to point out the fact that we have made additions to the setup. I now have 2 lights instead of 1, so let's just take in the glam for a second. Glam observed, we're good. Now to the tactic at hand. This all starts because there is some significant consternation about strikers being able to score goals in the conventional fashion. Some people like to call these the 1v1s. What's the point of designing a fantastic tactic if all of a sudden the strikers that get all of these opportunities can't find the back of the net if their life depended on it? Well, what if you didn't have to depend on the striker position at all? That is where the mysterious Beckham 1990 comes in. 275 tactics have been tested. Only 2 scored a 20. 2. And one of them was by Beckham 1990, who from everything we can tell has only submitted 2 tactics to the tactic tester the entire time, and the one that rated a 20, it doesn't have a striker on it. More total points per game on average through a league season than any other tactic submitted to the tester. In my opinion, that makes it just the best tactic. But there is some margin for error in this whole process. You'd have to run in through 1,000 different tests to be absolutely sure that those results are absolutely clear, but even with the margin of error, the tactic is absolutely fantastic, even if it's not quite the best, and it does it without having to use a striker at all, which means the types of goals that it creates are a bit easier for the match engine to finish off, while being a fairly tidy tactic in defense. And outside of a hatred for strikers, there is actually another use for this. The most expensive player on the field is the one on the top. If you're able to design an entire club and tactic that does not have to use a player on the top, you have a lot more free capital, a lot more free money. Another thing I want to make sure you keep in mind as we look at the stats that the Blue Blood Sword, I had to look, names these things anyways, the Blue Blood Sword. The Blue Blood Sword tactic, it's just very good at winning by 1 goal. The disparity between goals for and goals against is nowhere near other tactics. Those formations use strikers, and we don't. Well, I do, but, you know, this one doesn't. I gotta go down to my corner. All right, now that I'm down, you can see what I was talking about. The full stats of what is officially considered a 5-2-3-0, 1.63 points per game, which is the highest the tester has seen. 47% match wins. Overall, that's combining the subtop and underdog results. 21% draws, 32% losses, which if you sort by the loss percentage is actually the second lowest loss percentage that we have in the entire testing. Highest points per game, but only 1.64 goals per game, which is nowhere near the highest amount for goals per game, and 1.51 goals against per game, which is not particularly close to the best defensive tactic that you'll find in the tactic tester. But you cannot argue with the results, and it's what you would expect out of a strikerless tactic. You're going to be able to score a few goals, and they're not. You want to know the most remarkable thing? Considering strikerless tactics were all the rage years ago, the only strikerless tactic that is within 5 on the score is a reprisal of the Blue Blood Sword called the 3 Libero edition. It's just an edit of the original Blue Blood Sword. So strikerless tactics, they're not in vogue anymore, even though strikers are bad, and this one's good anyways. I just wanted you to know how lucky you are that this is available. I know you're sitting there like, well, we haven't seen the tactic yet, so this is kind of a weird video. I'm going to show it to you. I just got to cover all the bases before, because if I show you the tactic and then explain what's happening after, we all know what's coming. There's that one dude in the comments who's like, well, I downloaded the tactic, and I'm not scoring 15 goals a game, and I don't think it's broken. Oh, yeah. All right, here it is. We'll start on the top line. If you look at the top line of the tactic, you'll notice that there are no strikers, and you'd probably be a little surprised at this point if there were. The interesting part of the blue blood sword tactic, for me, takes place right in this front line, where it's essentially like a bowed front three with the attacking midfielder on attack. It's just that that striker has been moved back. This is useful for defensive responsibility, but as you'll see later, the actual application of this tactic means it's not really going to look different at all from a typical bowed front three that you'd see with two wingers and the striker on top. Now to the middle. It's like doing this. The middle is the key to this tactic being absolutely incredible, and that's the fact that you have your two inside forwards you noticed in the front section. Well, in the middle, you have two wingbacks on attack that are actually going to create a really remarkable 5-player press against the back line, despite the fact that none of them are strikers. The wingbacks provide the width, and the actual midfielders in this situation, the non-attacking midfielders, of course, are going to be the real defensive buffer, the buttress. They hang back off the top of the box. Maybe your box-to-box gets involved every once in a while, but they make sure not to get overcommitted, and you have your 5 players and your 3 that can get into the box remarkably effectively. All right, time for the back third. A magician. It accidentally hits the mic. The back is just 3, and it's a cleverly composed 3 because you actually use a libero, and liberos do a really nice job of staggering a line. It helps you close down more effectively because when a player is supposed to close down, they really know who's supposed to be closing down. For example, the middle guy in this situation is not going to close down as much to try and stop an attack, hopefully not at all, and will hang back so that you, well, keep your shape defensively. You have one guy who is able to stand as the last line of defense, and you hope in most situations that they prevent themselves from getting in too far of an offside position, which is going to be easier when we look at the instructions. Those personal instructions can be seen here if I'm able to do editing. All right, now they're here. The personal instructions, that's just the wrong word. It's just instructions. The instructions, well, I can sit here and look at them with you. In the possession section, you ever just wake up and your words don't work? In the possession section, the width allows your inside forwards to not go barreling into your attacking midfielder too early. The much higher tempo means that you push the ball incredibly aggressively, and you are going to be able to take advantage of a lot of counters because your offense and your movement is very fluid from the spots that they're actually starting on the field. Almost everything in the possession section is playing into the idea of sharp, quick counters every single time on much higher tempo you get the ball, you're going to be trying to push it. In transition, then you'll find unsurprisingly that you are going to be countering and counter pressing. It's a pretty hectic style of play. You can almost guess what's coming in the out of possession section of the instructions. Distributing to center backs, this is a little bit interesting on the side. I imagine you could flip that on or off depending on how confident you are in your center backs actually handling the ball. Take short kicks also surprises me a little bit. Can be dangerous if you're not too confident in your guys getting on the ball, but there is something to be said for getting the ball to your center backs and then playing the ball forward, because that means they're less exposed to your goalkeeper simply giving the ball away upfield, and then that back 3 is just fending for itself. And now the out of possession portion, which I said you'd be able to guess. It's only a higher defensive line, but a much higher line of engagement, which is actually genius. If you do not have a striker, that means you're just naturally going to be deeper in the field. The way to overcome that is a much higher line of engagement that's just chucks your entire midfield up into the striker position. With a higher defensive line, it decompresses the compression that you're forming naturally without a striker. Like, okay, your formation is more compact than usual, so a much higher line of engagement and just a higher defensive line is going to make your formation spacing feel normal. Prevent short goalkeeper distribution, which I love. Get stuck in, use tighter marking, and offside trap. Offside trap, interesting to run that with a libero, but I mean, it works. My complaint, players give the ball away too much. In Football Manager 20, players just give the ball away all the time. They just do. And this tactic takes advantage of it. Tighter marking, incredibly hard closing down with get stuck in and everything. If you're able to put a few passes together, you're able to get through this formation. But the match engine just doesn't allow that to happen enough, so you create all kinds of turnovers all over the field in very unorthodox ways because of the original shape defensively of the entire formation, and then you're able to just spring an attack. Incredibly high line of engagement means nobody gets away from it. It's brilliant. I mean, I don't know a lot about making tactics compared to this guy or girl. It's the 21st century. I don't know who Beckham is, but I think when we're all sitting here looking at this, we can all agree that it's a genius tactic. And that's why I'm recommending it to you here today. I've explained in a different video, I'll link above, how to add tactics to a game if you've never done it before, but you only have to go to FMBase and add this tactic, download it into the appropriate folder, which I do recommend watching the tutorial if you don't know what I'm talking about, and then you'll be able to load in Beckham's brilliant blue sword, whatever it is, and play without a striker and succeed a lot. Do not be afraid to mess around with the instructions just a little bit, but there are a few notes that I'll pass along very quickly that come from the creator themselves. You want to use this tactic? I recommend you break out a pen and paper or something. These are not short. Pen and paper, who uses that? Okay, here, you ready? If the opponent has no attacking midfielder in the middle and a lone striker, you need to change the personal instruction of the libero to mark the striker. If the opponent has no defensive midfielder, use the attacking midfielder in the center to mark the closest center mid or most creative center mid. We got like 5 more. These weren't applied in the tactic testing, by the way. They're just extra little things to help you out to make it even better. If the opponent has more than 2 defensive mids, use the attacking center midfielder on your team to mark the most creative defensive midfielder. If the opponent uses 3 center backs, central defenders, ensure the inside forwards are marking their correlating left and right back. If the opponent uses midfield left and midfield right, change your wingbacks to mark them. And last, and I'm not sure if this is the most important, but hey, if you get a red card, remove the worst performing center mid. Okay, now that's it. You kids have fun. The link is down below, and down below a couple of other links, like, hey, if you want to follow me on Twitch, you can. I stream Football Manager about 4 times a week. You can come check that out. If you enjoyed the video, please like and then subscribe to the channel. We do a lot of different videos, tactics, stuff like this included. This is certainly not the last one. Thank you so much. Check out those links and then hit the link to download this tactic. It's awesome. We all hate strikers. Let's band together and rid them from the game forever. Thank you, blue sword thing.
How dare you, man? You know, you didn't tell me how to. I don't even know. I don't even know what I'm asking. Why aren't you? Why did you answered me and you didn't answer my question? I don't know my tell me what my question is, man. Like, what's your? I'm downvoting every video you ever make. I'm done. I am done. I've had enough. Okay.